Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. It's a glorious day in March and I'm continuing my madness. It's March madness for sure. We got a Red Twigged Dogwood, we've got a Juniper we're going to tackle right now. We're going to put this aside for a moment. This is a Juniper that I'm going to show you some before and after shots because it's had a little bit of a journey. So my wife's aunt Colleen graciously donated this Juniper to me, but it was so much bigger. And it kind of split up into two and had this big canopy, kind of lollipop almost, broom style, and one side died. It just died back. And that's this chop right here. This is what's left of the tree. We're gonna see what we can do with this one. I think it's been in this pot for a couple of years and we're gonna do something with that in a little while. But first up, the Red Twigged Dogwood. Now driving in this beautiful weather these last few days when it's been 40s and sunshine, the snow is melting, the Red Twigged Dogwoods just start to glow their red trunks. So this has been in a cold frame, Minnesota hardy, but a smaller pot, and I don't want the critters tune it up. I've always put this one back into the cold frame for the winter. But it's gonna be ready to come out soon. Now nothing's budded on here. I don't see a lot of major dieback, but it hasn't been transplanted now for about 3 years. This has been 3 years. So I'm really curious what the root structure is gonna be like for the red twig. It's really not meant to be a tree, it's a bush. And so my multi-clump here, my 4-trunk dealy-bop here, is having a hard time getting taller, too much taller, because it keeps growing suckers from the bottom and it wants to be a bush. And so I'll get a new growth. If I left this right here this year, I would get growth that would match this height of all these branches. I'd get 2 or 3 or maybe 4 branches that would be this tall by the end of the spring or summer, for sure. And I just keep cutting them back. But it hasn't been repotted for 3 years. So let's get to it. Got a little bit of moss on the top. We're gonna get rid of that. Yeah, I can't wait to see the root structure on this. I actually have taken a couple of cuttings from the red twig, and I have 2 or 3 other trees growing now, and one of them was like a branch like this, where it's just straight up and it's one branch, one main trunk, I should say. And so I'm hoping that main trunk is gonna produce a quicker tree than this guy has, because this guy just keeps wanting to grow into a bush. So I don't see any wire at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'll just keep using this guy here. Let's see if I can dig into the side here. That's probably some good growth in there if I'm having this much challenge getting down the Akadama. Because usually the Akadama pumice lava rock is the weak, has the least roots on the outside when you plant your trees. So you cut your root backs, you have all that space between the root ball and the edge of the pot. Well, if it's this thick, it's a good sign. I'm hoping there's going to be lots of roots down in there. Let's give it a pull. It's not wired. Oh, it is wired. Oh, the wires were a little rusted out there. I'm not going to pull this out if there's wire holding it on. Let's straighten out that wire. Cut it off from the bottom there, and now let's try to wiggle it out. There we go. Cleanly out of there. I don't know if I'm going to put it back in the same pot or not. There's my square root pattern, right? Wow. Yeah, we got some roots here. All the way out to the edge. There's some roots right here. Look at that. They're starting to grow around the pot though. You see that? We don't want them to grow around the pot for too long, because then they just keep long and spindly. We want them to ramify just like at the refinement stage of a bonsai tree. And we want them to keep growing out and not down and all around and around and around. So it's definitely, I think, a good time to repot. I did it again. It's definitely a good time to repot. There are a lot of roots. There are Look at the thickness of those roots right there. There's just all kinds of roots growing on the outside. Love it. I love to see that in a bonsai tree. These top roots, if there's a little damage as I do this, we want the roots to grow down. They'll replenish the top like they are right now with some moss on this tree again. And when you put that sphagnum moss on your tree and it holds in that moisture and provides that filtration of the water, it also promotes the growth of those roots and the top layer. It makes those roots want to grow right up at the surface there. And so you get a lot of good ramification, a lot of good feeder roots right there at the surface. And the bottom of that plant, that's all roots. The dark color is from a little bit of sediment from the lava rocks, but that is all root structure. All root structure. Most of the soil out of here, I still haven't even been able to get the, there we go, there's the wire. I was just going to say, I haven't been able to even get the wire out yet. There's one of them. Here's the other one. And there's the other wire. I can feel some of the rocks, the soil in there. So this is a nice structure of roots. This is really nice and thick. About 47, 48 degrees out here today. Sun is shining bright, so I want to make sure these roots are not getting too dry. That'll help wash out some of the dirt as well. I'm actually going to cut some of these initial roots off up top here. There's a couple of them. A couple little ones that are right at the base. This could use a good dunking in my pond, which is still ice right now. So if the pond was open, I would take this over and wash it out in the pond real quick. But instead I have to rely on my spray bottle, because there is some real intensely thick black dirt in here, which we want to be careful of, because if we have too much dirt in our bonsai, that's going to trap moisture more than let it flow through the root system in a nice way. So I don't want a lot of dirt. I want this to be bare rooted if I can, to get to the as thin of a section as I can. Let's go ahead and cut the bottom roots here. And to loosen up some of the soil. We're going to trim off these bottom roots to make it thinner anyway. We want roots to grow out, not down. So the sun is certainly shining on this thing nice and brightly. You can see this root that I've exposed. There's all these little roots. There's that big curly root right there. Probably cut this thing right at that junction. Let it grow down more than out and around. Hard to see though, much closer than those shiny ones. This is still a lot of potential dirt in here. It's really dark in color, as you can see. And there's a lot of fine roots in there. There's still more. They can see all this kind of stuff coming off. I'm breaking a few roots because they're just so compact in there. Now I don't want to go too far and damage all these roots, but there's a lot of roots on this tree, so I'm probably going to have some nice recovery. And this will go back in the cold frame for a couple more weeks for sure. I'm not just going to all of a sudden put this thing out here for it to get cold and freeze and warm up and all that. So if you can see the bottom of the tree here, we'll cut some more of those roots off, and then we'll probably get ready to pot this thing up. There, so yeah, that is likely the original taproot of this tree, or this bush, this shrub. So we will cut these. There we go. And that's where the most of the dirt is left, right around that structure. So this is, next time we repot this, there'll be even less dirt. Hopefully these roots thicken up a little bit. Some of them die back. The bigger ones push out the dirt. Let's give it another soak down. All right. So there we have a nice ramification of roots. We have nice radial root pattern. We're going to make sure it's pretty equal all the way around. So we can get that in a pot, nice and flat, and we are ready to go. How about this, everybody? So a couple of episodes I was going to put my Cotoneaster in here, which was much bigger. This one fits nicely in there right now. It would grow more to the right and left, but it's a wide tree because it's a clump. And again, it's got that really red bark. It's got this tan leg onto this pot, but with the black pot and the really red branches, and then we'll have green leaves. I like it. A lot of times when I repot, if I have a big enough screen, I won't even put a wire on there to tie it down anymore, because the soil will hold it down until the roots get in there, settle down again and make it real tight. My layer, of course, now, I only have 2 drain holes in this one, which means I only have 2 spots for a wire. We wanted it to be on this side of the pot because this branch is growing this way, fills up that negative space really well. I'm going to bring this over to that side, bring this here, do a hand twist first, and before I cut, let me look at my tree. I'm okay with that. A little twist there maybe. There we go. Find it because it's right in front of me. Here we go. Lift and spin. Lift and spin. Lift and spin. Pushing down on the pot, lifting up on the... You can see on the back side there a little bit. Oh, and by doing that, I created some too much tension on the small drainage plug, and so that's not going to work. That's going to just come apart. Soil is going to shift around in there, and I'm going to have imbalance of oxygen and water, and we are not going to be happy. So we need to start over on that one. Let's go with that right there. Let's bring this over here. Let me take a peek at it again. There we go. Cut the extra off again. Lift up while I'm holding the pot down and twist. So if I wouldn't have fixed that on the spot and made that better, I would have had drainage of all that soil. And then there would have been air pockets in there, and that wouldn't have been good. We'll tamp down the soil a little bit. Got a few holes in there underneath. I did have some soil that I had to push it down. We want to make sure that those air pockets are very minimal. Got that nice and watered. So I have some sphagnum moss all broken up last fall, and I'm going to go ahead and put on there. So the soil is just below the lip. The sphagnum moss now is not. So this pot would have been nice if I had a little bit deeper pot, but that's okay. Once this settles down a little bit, make sure when you water, when you first water dry sphagnum moss, the water is just going to run right off, right? So get it moist. Once you get it moist with either a sprayer or light mist or light, now I can go like this, kind of fairly light, and watch it all kind of settle in there a little bit. Now when I water this tree, I have to make sure that I water really good so it doesn't just water fall right out, because this is a little bit high in the pot. We'd like it a little bit lower. Not horrible, but not optimal either. And this sphagnum moss is going to again be a filter to capture sediment from the water. It's going to help promote moss growth, and then it's going to retain moisture. So on those hot summer days when I water, I don't have to water 3 times a day, maybe just twice. All right. So that's watered through and through, seeping out the bottom. And there we have right there, we have our Red Twigged Dogwood. So this one is kind of in the front. I'm going to leave it there though. This one has the best movement and best ramification of all of them. This has ramification up here, but not down here. All of these areas down in here, all these little speckles in area, they could all back bud. But again, it wants to grow suckers. It wants to grow like a bush low. So I want these to stay where they are, and I want them to get more tree-like and taller. So I'm really not going to do much to this today at all, I don't think. I want to keep it where it is. I want this one to be as long as it is to fill up that space over there. I might cut this one back to here. There's a set of buds right below there, and I'll cut back to here. And this one I'll cut back to here. I've got 3 in this area, 1, 2, 3. So I'll cut this one off in the hopes that, all right, those 2 do fine. And this one has a new branch coming down there, so I'm just going to cut this off right here because there's a bud right there and there. So if this dies back a little bit, those buds will be supported. This looks like some dieback here, so I'm just going to cut this one off. Yeah, that one was dead. Maybe a little life down there. So I got 2 growths here. These also look like there's potentially dieback. This looks like it's died back. All these have a little bit of gray tips. Like here's a gray tip right here. This one's definitely died back right to here. So I'll cut that off. And these tips might be not viable, but there's going to be growth back here. So I'm just going to leave them go for the rest of this moment here, and we'll see how it starts to back bud here as we get into spring. So that's all I'm going to do. There we go. We have the Red Twigged Dogwood. So this little guy, Colleen's Juniper. This was a gift given to Colleen or her former husband who passed away a few years ago. She did not want it anymore. It's had some ups and downs. It lost half of the tree, but this side has kept alive, and it's a cute little shohin tree. I got this pot. This is an old Japanese pot from the Minnesota Bonsai Society, a former member, or I don't remember where I acquired it. We're going to see if this thing will come out with some roots in here. It's got a nice little shari here. This whole half of the trunk is dead right now, so it's growing only on that second half, but it's still alive, and it could be a really interesting tree someday. So there's a lot of broken down soil in here, so the akadama has pretty much turned into kind of a grit. My tweezers, and be careful not to break this pot. It is a thin pot. There we go. I think that helped it come out. There we go. There we go. So yeah, the akadama certainly all broken up. We've got the pumice that's totally active. The lava rocks, it's pretty good. The pumice has kind of made kind of a grit. And let's break this down a little bit. Let's see what we got. Kind of neat curve to it. Now I can turn it this way and have it swoop up. Instead of it used to be swooping this way, I can maybe swoop it this way now, but not in this pot. All right? All right. We just had a nice auction. It says a Chinese or a Japanese stamp below this one. This one's been stamped as well. Might be more of a production line pot, but definitely made in Japan. This one as well. So I got this really small tree. This is not going to be a monster. This is a shohin tree, and it may stay that way for a long time. Look at that, could be a cascade right there. Fell off. See, cascade. Maybe this pot, cascade. Or this pot, more upright. This pot's probably too low. Put it this way, let it spread the roots out so it would grow that way. This one is probably too long left to right. I got these 2 gray pots that are kind of interesting. This one has some interesting texture to it. It's got a little bit more depth to it. I just don't know how I'm going to plant this guy. It almost wants to be a shohi, or kind of a cascade style here. And then here's that dead root, the tree that just broke off and grew out that way. Let's see if these root structures can spread out and get thicker. So if I have it this way, got some trees coming out at us, but if I have it this way, you can also still have it this way. And that shows that really bottom root left and right swell there. If I have that like this sitting up in the pot. I think I like that as at a slight angle. All right. Screen's done. Just found the right thickness of extra wire in one of my tool containers. Here we go. Spread these roots out, and I got a couple of long straggly roots here, so I can cut a couple off. I don't want to cut too much off of this guy. And then we're gonna spread these roots out and plant this. So I have this a little bit off to the right slant. Something like that I'm thinking about. Get a little more soil underneath to support it before I twist it in place. I'm only doing 2 twists because I'm on a root there and I don't want to create any too much root damage there. So it seems a little flat to me, a little flat down here. It's in the back of the pot too much. I'm going to untwist it and try it again. I have enough wire I can keep it there. I'm gonna go get some tubing. I know where that is. I'll be right back. A couple episodes I was working with Michael on the Beastie, and we have this rubber tubing. I don't need very much, but I'm gonna put the rubber tubing on this guy so it sits over the root and then doesn't create much harm. Kind of close to the trunk as well, but until this gets more established, I have to go ahead and do that so I don't damage the tree. I don't want to damage the tree. All right, now I want to prop this up with some more soil again because I want this wire to hold the tree down, but I don't want it to press it down too much. Very little branches, or very little roots down here. I don't want to damage too much of those roots. It was laying pretty good on the soil, pretty flat. So it still got pushed to the back a little too much. I almost need a rock underneath it to prop it up. Because, you know, it's okay that way, but it's kind of, nah, I'm not loving it. Got the branch structure, I got my main leader here, I got a nice big branch here that I can trim back. I can pinch a little bit this spring and get some more branches to go, but it looks, I lose the shari of that dead part. See, maybe I can just put a rock underneath there. How about a wood chip for now? How about a wood chip for now, right here? You see how raising up that trunk a little bit? Especially from that angle, you know, it looks a lot cooler. So I need to find a little rock. Rock. I don't think they're unfrozen enough for me to get rocks around my garden yet. I'll take a quick peek just in case. In my lower pond, I have some of these rocks from all the trips we've taken, and this has kind of a reddish color to it when it's wet with some white stripy looking when it's dry. And so I propped one of them. This is probably from the North Shore up in the Duluth area. And when it's wet, it has this really neat brown look with this white kind of stripe. And I like that little addition of the rock right there. It looks like it's butt up against a rock. So if I were to put this over here, and then I have this little mini penjing, right? Where I've got these rock structures, and when they're wet, they're super pretty. And now it looks like a tree that's growing next to that rock. And when you do see it from an angle there, it's kind of cool. So we'll let it grow this year in this pot. We'll let it grow next year in this pot. And when we repot it, we'll see how we can adjust it some more. The dead shari part is in the back. People aren't going to see it right now, but let's keep it alive. Let's let it grow. Let's do some pinching this spring, and let's see where this thing goes. Nice little pot though. I love the, right now I love the juxtaposition, if you will, between these smooth rocks and look at these edgy ones right here, these little curves in here, which makes it a little edgy, but little curve in there with the curve of the rock and the tree. It's a neat color. The little red rocks with the, why not? Even from the back, the tree looks pretty cool. A little shohin tree, that's respectable. I'd put this on my dinner table for a little centerpiece tonight. How about that? Oh, nope, got to keep it in the cold frame for a little bit longer. There we have Colleen's Juniper. Colleen's Juniper has gone through a transformation. Let us see a before and after, and in the middle and in between, and then different pots, and then now we come to the end. We'll show you those pictures so you can get a nice a view of how things have changed. I do almost like this view better, right there. You see the rock, but then you see this tree that was trying to grow, and then it's just fun. All right, this was great. The sun is getting ever so deep. Guess what? That does it for another edition of Dave's Bonsai. Got a couple more repotted today. What a fantastic weekend. This is all kind of part of my March Madness. Nothing to do with basketball. Some great bonsai work. So hey, please hit like. Yeah, subscribe. Tell your friends about Dave's Bonsai, and take care of yourselves, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you very soon. We got a lot of work to do. All right, take care.